So here's a scenario. You just took down an entire enemy team pretty much all by yourself because for some reason you are always matched with the lowest tier trash, with newbie trashy garbage trash hams. After such a glorious victory, you head on over to collect your even more glorious loot. Gold items everywhere and enough ammo, shields and meds not to last you just till the end of this match, but until the end of time. Then just as you're about to head off on another stupendous rampage, fully geared up, you suddenly get pushed by a team that seemingly appeared out of thin air and you die in 2 seconds flat. This is a scenario most of us are all too familiar with, and it perfectly illustrates just how big of a role sound actually plays in games. Being able to tell where enemies are before actually seeing them just by hearing their movements clearly is a major advantage. And it's one that in theory should be amplified even more by a headset that offers real 7.1 surround sound rather than the surround sound you get via software. A headset like ASUS's ROG Theta 7.1, a premium $300 headset with all the right specs in all the right places, and in this video we'll be putting it to the test to see whether its impressive specs and features actually translate into real-world results, or whether it's one of those headsets that sound good on paper and pretty much nowhere else. But before we do that, we should probably take at least just a little peek at said paper. Or if you just want to buy the friggin' thing right now, I will leave affiliate links down below. Support the channel, get a new headset, win-win. Anyway, the ROG Theta 7.1 is a gaming headset that, as the name would suggest, is built for a 7.1 surround sound experience. An experience that, unlike a ton of other 7.1 branded headsets, it tries to achieve not just through software, but primarily through actual hardware that's built into the headset itself. That hardware being four ASUS Essence neodymium drivers in each ear cup, and behind each of those drivers sits dedicated ESS amplifiers. Amplifiers fed by what ASUS calls a customized ROG home theater grade 7.1 DAC. Now, having multiple smaller drivers rather than two big ones is amazing for surround sound, but it does come with its own set of drawbacks. And the biggest one of those, in my opinion, is a sharp reduction in bass. In hopes of combating that, the Theta 7.1 uses what ASUS calls virtual subwoofers to virtually boost bass performance. But that's something we'll definitely be digging into in just a bit. Another of the Theta 7.1's biggest selling points is its unidirectional mic. The mic is detachable, letting you keep it out of the way when you don't need it, features a frequency response of 100 to 12,000 Hz, and a sensitivity of -40 decibels to around 3 decibels. Although those specs alone aren't the real kicker here. What ASUS decided to focus on here is noise cancellation, AI noise cancellation to be exact. ASUS claims that the mic features a dedicated processor loaded with smart profiles trained by AI to eliminate over 50 million types of background noise. Now, as cool as all of those technical details sound, I think it's about time we actually dig into this thing and see what it has to offer. And first things first, this is a big old boy. Like, it's probably the beefiest gaming headset I have personally used in a very, very long time. The ear cups are huge, the ear cushions themselves are beefy, and the whole thing just looks kind of intimidating, in a good way. The Theta 7.1 looks absolutely badass. Its size would have looked a little strange if it was all boxy and unrefined, but it's not. The design ASUS decided to go with here is perfect for its target audience: serious gamers. The mix of matte black and silver metallic accents works extremely well here, and the sharp lines and edges on the ear cups as well as on the headband connectors look all futuristic and awesome. And speaking of awesome, we have to address the headset's real main selling point: RG bling. The outside of both ear cups are adorned with an ROG logo equipped with Aura RGB lighting that's far brighter than I was expecting, and absolutely smooth as silk thanks to almost perfect diffusion. Even though you don't get to see the lighting all the time because you'll actually be wearing it, other people will. And if they don't like it, then they're boring and don't need to be in your life anyway. But as eye-catching as the design of this thing is, it would be meaningless if beauty was all this thing had to offer. Thankfully, the extra bulk and edgy design of this thing in large part also helps to make it honestly one of the most comfortable and sturdy headsets I have ever used. Those thick ear cushions are fantastic. They come in two variants, one with mostly leather on the outside and the others with mostly fabric on the outside, both of which are included and both of which are phenomenally comfortable on the ears. Like, my daily driver headset that I use for gaming and many hour-long editing sessions tends to get a little uncomfortable, especially around the top parts of my ears, and that's something I never experienced with the Theta 7.1. Part of that comes down to ASUS's use of pressure-reducing materials around the parts that the headset actually makes contact with my glasses. But I'm pretty sure it mostly comes down to just how thick these things actually are and how firm yet soft they are. They're just great ear cushions. And the fact that there's like enough room in here for 5 ears probably doesn't hurt either. Another issue that I personally have with most headsets is that I personally get really warm really quick. ASUS tries to address this particular issue by using specialized fast cooling fabric, and I'm sure that it does what it's supposed to with normal people, but for me, even though it took a little longer than usual, my molten lava ears still overheated and got all sweaty. All of that, along with the padding on the inside of the generously adjustable headband, make for one hell of a comfy ride and makes you forget that you're wearing a headset at all. The only real issue I have with the comfort of this particular headset is the cabling. As you can see, the headset uses 2 cables running down into a single one converging down here. And if you're not used to a configuration like that and you go to take the headset off, it does tend to get a little bit choky. Build quality wise, the headset is pretty much what I expected from this price range. It's robust, doesn't feel flimsy, and is clearly made from premium materials. And even though I subjected the headband to more twisting and pulling than any normal user would put it through, it held up just fine. It doesn't do so without protesting, mind you, as it does make some understandable, mildly annoying squeaking and creaking sounds when you try to bend it out of place, but that's just something to be expected with awkwardly moving parts like this. Along with PC, ASUS also claims that the headset should be compatible with your phone, PS4, and Switch as long as you have the right connectors. So look, the Theta 7.1 is an intimidatingly cool, ultra comfortable headset, no cap. But when it all comes down to it, all of that is just fluff. What's most important here is how this thing actually performs. So let's jump straight into it. First off, let's start with the mic. And what better way to show off what it can actually do than to just let you guys hear what it sounds like. So here it is, completely raw and unedited. And this is the mic on the ROG Theta, just straight up, no audio enhancements, just into the headset, into the PC, and recording through OBS. Now, I'm not sure whether OBS is the perfect solution for recording this kind of thing, but it is my first headset review, so deal with it. So now this is what the mic sounds like with AI noise cancellation turned on. Now, if it's doing its job right, we should be hearing significantly less noise from these fans all around me, and just less noise in general with more focus on my voice. And this is what the mic sounds like with both AI noise cancellation turned on as well as the perfect voice effect. So what I'm guessing is happening right now is that there is an extreme focus on just my voice, cutting out almost all other noises coming through the mic. So there was that. It's definitely not the best mic I've ever heard on a gaming headset, but it's actually pretty good. The Theta's AI noise cancellation definitely takes the mic up more than a few notches, especially if you game in a generally noisy environment. And moving on, we obviously have to talk about the audio quality, and that's where this whole thing gets really interesting. The Theta 7.1 is by no means a plug-and-play headset. Out of the box, the Theta 7.1 just doesn't sound like a premium headset. Audio is tinny, there's pretty much no bass to be found anywhere, and the volume is honestly abysmal. But wait. Hold on there, guy. Don't click off just yet, because that's not nearly the full story. The Theta 7.1 has a ton of hardware behind those ear cups, and it's only when you install the accompanying ROG Armory 2 software that this thing really starts to flex its premium audio muscles. The software itself has presets for different applications ready to go, but with all the customization options it has to offer, tuning all of those settings myself yielded much better results. And thankfully, the software also lets you save your own profiles, so switching between them isn't much of a hassle. And as for music, the overall experience was pretty decent. I've used much more premium, albeit not gaming focused headsets in the past that were also high res, and I'd say the Theta is at very least on par with those. It has the same clarity, fidelity, and audio quality I experienced with those much pricier headsets, meaning vocals come through crystal clear and you can single out and hear each and every instrument going on at any given point, whether you're listening to Oliver Tree, Blink-182, or While She Sleeps, shredding the absolute sickest melodic riffs you've ever heard. Unfortunately, the Theta's focus on 7.1 surround sound via smaller drivers kind of lets it down a little here. And that's because as much as ASUS tries to boost bass levels up via virtual subwoofers or any other virtual means, there really is just no substitute for having 2 big drivers just pounding bass into your ears. The bass fidelity is there, don't get me wrong. Bass lines come through clear as day and don't get all muddied like they do on cheaper headsets. But simply put, there's just not enough of it for my personal taste at least. And speaking of personal taste, I would have really loved if these things were able to go a little louder. With everything set to max volume, I really expected to be blown away by those 8 tiny drivers. But instead of a tornado, I kind of got a 6 out of 10 storm. Thankfully, the lower bass and volume levels didn't really bother me all that much while watching stuff like YouTube, although that's primarily because I don't watch channels that rely on music or like loud noises. Movies, on the other hand, do rely on both of those pretty heavily. And unlike when I listen to music or watch YouTube videos, I prefer to watch movies in 7.1 surround sound. And honestly, shiz was dope, after some tweaking of course. I specifically chose high octane action scenes to really put the surround sound to the test, and it delivered flawlessly. I would have personally preferred if stuff like explosions were a little more bass heavy, but the overall general surround sound experience more than made up for it. So yeah, a bit of a mixed bag there. But my friends, the ROG Theta 7.1 is a gaming headset. And gaming is where this thing really shines. With the 7.1 and virtual surround turned on, along with my tweaked gaming preset, I swear I heard things in my favorite games that I have never heard before. Single player games like Metro Exodus, Dark Souls 3, and more recently Subnautica were instantly more immersive. But let's get real here, most of my gaming time is spent with more competitive titles like Apex Legends, and it's here where I fully understand the appeal of the Theta 7.1. With the Theta, I was able to hear whether enemies were above or below me, whether the footsteps I was hearing were friend or foe, and I could even hear campers in the corner just hiding, waiting to score a free kill. And it's not just close quarters either. In more open environments, I was able to tell where enemies were coming from along with where they were going way before I even saw them, giving me precious few extra milliseconds to respond accordingly. Of course, the way games are designed, you're kind of supposed to hear that kind of stuff anyway, and of course, you do on normal headsets, but not this clearly, and definitely not this accurately. Now, I obviously can't say with 100% certainty that this headset made me better at Apex, because there are literally hundreds of factors involved at any given point. But what I can say is that I personally felt like I was better. Like I was reacting to stuff faster and preparing better for upcoming fights. And that's by far my favorite thing about this headset. That being said though, as great as that experience is, it doesn't come without some drawbacks of its own. The limitations of those smaller drivers do come into play here, just like they did before. Bass still wasn't up to the punchiness level that I prefer, and in certain situations, the headset just wasn't loud enough. And another issue is that a lot of games aren't really optimized properly for 7.1 surround sound. Using Apex again as the prime example, like voice lines from teammates' characters almost completely disappear when you're any distance away from them, and the announcer's voice comes from so far away that it sounds like it's in a different game. And even after extensive tuning in the Armory 2 software, stuff like getting shot, getting hits, and even like opening loot boxes just didn't sound quite right. Almost like the game forgets which sounds to play, what volume they should be at, and where they should be coming from. Luckily, all of those issues just seemed kind of minor to me while I was getting a bunch of kills that I'm not sure I would usually be able to get. In conclusion then, I am conflicted about the Theta 7.1. There's so much to like here. It's an extremely solid headset with styling to match, and I was not lying when I said it's one of the most comfy headsets I have ever worn. And let's not forget, I was legitimately blown away by how much my game awareness went up while wearing these headphones, whether they actually made me better at the game or not. But for all of that good, the headset does have some issues, and the severity of those issues completely depends on your personal preference. If you don't mind having to take some time to properly configure this thing in software, don't really mind the slightly flatter bass performance, and don't really crank volume up to 11 in most applications, then none of these flaws should really matter to you. But if the sound of any of those just doesn't quite sit right with you, then you might want to consider trying these out at a local tech shop or whatever before throwing your money at it. If you enjoyed this video, get subscribed because they'll keep coming, and be sure to enable all notifications just to appease the YouTube gods. And while you're at it, be sure to send ASUS South Africa some major love for sending the headset over for me to review. And if you want to support the channel directly like the legends in the credits of my videos, then my Patreon link down below is the place to be. So yeah, you see this chair? That's a cool chair. You see the lights? Oh yeah, I'm gonna enjoy this chair now, and that headset. So, goodbye.